Let's run through some NBA players who are currently out injured that you could potentially make a play on. What's going on, guys? Matt here, back again with another video. Hope you are all doing well and enjoying the NBA season so far. Let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are on the season so far. Whilst others are looking at where the hype is for their sports card investments, I do like to look elsewhere, and NBA players who are currently not playing thanks to an injury is a great example of that. Let's run through a few NBA players, their injury history and their potential in the sports card market in my opinion. And we can run through this format during the season as I'm sure there'll be more injuries to come. But in saying so, let's run through the first player in TJ Warren from the Indiana Pacers. So TJ Warren is a name that probably has been forgotten a bit, but at one of the heights of the sports card market was a point where TJ was being regarded as the bubble GOAT, as he averaged just under 40 points a game in the first 3 games of the season restart. Many people speak about Bol and Jamal Murray as two of the players who had ridiculous spikes in the bubble, but I personally feel TJ Warren eclipsed them all. Unfortunately, TJ and the Pacers got swept by the eventual NBA finalists, the Miami Heat, and moving on to last season, TJ was only able to play 4 games before being sidelined with a foot injury. Going in deeper to the injury, it's been diagnosed as a navicular stress fracture, which seems a little bit scary because it was the same injury that ruined Yao Ming's career and forced an early retirement. The fortunate thing with this injury for TJ is that he isn't the height and weight of Yao, so I feel like this injury won't impact his career like it did with Yao's, and the navicular stress fracture seems to be more of a big man injury. Michael Jordan even sustained one at the age of 22 and had no issues afterwards, so I think it gives a tick to the potential of re-injury in the future. Unfortunately, however, though, in his 7 years of the NBA, TJ has never played a full season, so do keep that in mind when it comes to other injuries. According to reports, he's looking to return around late December or early January. I'm very interested to see what Rick Carlisle does because it doesn't look like there's a spot for him in the starting lineup. Currently, you have Brogdon at the 1, LeVert at the 2, Duarte at the 3, Sabonis at the 4, and Miles Turner as the center. I could see him potentially pushing out Duarte to the bench, but with the rookie's impressive play so far, it's hard to see how he could, so he could be relegated to a 6-man role. Another thing that does worry me about Warren is that even if he does start again, he's doing so with high usage players, and I can't see him being the double GOAT that he was last year. I do think when he returns, he'll be a mid-teen scorer if he is a starter or a low-teen scorer if he is coming off the bench. The hidden potential lies if he does get potentially traded where he can become a number 1 option because he's proven over the years that he's a professional scorer and a walking bucket. His graded stuff is relatively scarce just because he isn't graded often like other players in his rookie class like Joel Embiid and Zach LaVine, but you can find PSA 10s of his Prism or Select card for $10 to $20 US. I personally do have a couple of autos of TJ, but I picked these up using profits of other TJ Warren cards I did sell during the bubble. Let's move on to the second player, and I've mentioned him just briefly before, and that's Jamal Murray from the Denver Nuggets. Jamal is currently sidelined with an ACL injury, and there's no date for his return at the moment. He's had a relatively solid injury history, with this being his first major injury throughout his entire career. Jamal Murray was one of the most popular buys in the offseason after the bubble thanks to his performance during the 2019-20 NBA playoffs, where he averaged 32 points in the series against the Jazz, and he had 2 50-point games as well. He was able to build on that, jumping up to a 21 point per game average last season and showcasing why he is one of the bright future stars. The pairing of Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic along with Michael Porter Jr. is a solid trio to build around for the future, and unfortunately this injury has hurt the Nuggets for the time being. Murray is only 23 years old, and although his ACL injury may ruin his current season, I still think he's one of the best young and most exciting players in the league. At the moment, he's currently on his feet and rehabbing, and I could potentially see him returning before the playoffs, and with a deep team like the Denver Nuggets, they could potentially make a run deep into the playoffs. Now, is Jamal Murray a viable investment at the moment? I would say probably not in my opinion, and that's based off his Prism PSA 9 when we rank it alongside other notable players in his draft class. As we can see in comparison to Ben Simmons, Jalen Brown, and Brandon Ingram, his card is tied first, and funnily enough, it's tied with another player who isn't playing right now in Ben Simmons. I think Jalen Brown and Brandon Ingram are underrated in comparison to these two, and the fact that they're both playing right now and are cheaper highlight better value in them in comparison to Simmons and Murray. If Murray's card prices do drop because his market does realize he is injured, I can see him being a viable buy, but just not at the current price he's at for the fact that he may not potentially play this season. If you do buy at his current price, I'd almost say that you're banking on him to return this season and having a solid playoff run, which is risky in itself. Let's move on to the last player, and that's Thomas Bryant from the Washington Wizards. Now, Bryant unfortunately sustained an ACL injury at the start of the 2020-21 season after having a very solid start averaging 14 points and 6 rebounds. It was a great follow-up to his previous season where he averaged 13 points and 7 rebounds. The problem he faces upon returning is that there is a crowded front court with Daniel Gafford, Montrezl Harrell, and Rui Hachimura all ahead of him. If it weren't for Gafford playing so well at the end of last season, Bryant would most likely be the starter. In contrast to Gafford, Bryant is much more offensively gifted and is able to step out and hit threes, shooting an average of 41.1% from three over the last 2 seasons. The Wizards do value him very highly and they're predicting a return before 2022 for Bryant, so it'll be very interesting to see how they juggle playing time between their returning players and their current lineup. I do think the Wizards will prioritise defense, as the Wizards aren't really known for great defense, and continue to start Gafford with Bryant to take up backup center minutes for when offense does need to be generated. Bryant has come on massively since being drafted by the Lakers and was touted to be one of the potential breakout players last season before his injury. His graded stuff are also relatively scarce, as many didn't rate Bryant and grade him as much as the other players in his draft class, but you can find Prism PSA 9s for under $10 US. Personally, I do have a very small holding in Bryant, but I wouldn't be looking for him massively thanks to the logjam at the Wizards. He is someone I think again would benefit from a trade, as he's proven to be a very solid center that can step out and hit the occasional three. That is it for today's video. Much appreciated if you've made it to the end. Comment below any injured players that you're currently looking out for. There's definitely enough for a future video, so stay tuned. And yeah, I'll see you all in future videos. Take care.